If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Central Valley Talk. My name is Ray Johns. I'm your host, and the name of my show is Voices Not Yet Heard, and like we say every week, we hope that perhaps your voice will get heard today. If you're watching me now, I'm live, so feel free to call in. The number's on the screen. We talk about a number of subjects, mostly 90% political, but feel free to call in. We'll talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. I'm going to go to a video right now, a very short video with Nancy Pelosi. I want you to watch this, and then I'm going to comment on this.
I keep reminding my colleagues, if this is about their political survival, their political survival means nothing compared to the survival of 20 children in first grade in Newtown and their teachers. Today, as you know, with only hours' notice and no CBO score, Republicans are maliciously, again, attempting to destroy health care and coverage for the American people. This is really almost, I would say, a welcome debate. I would hope that they realize that this is really bad for the country, but I do say that it is good in one.
Okay, I wanted you to see that because it blows me away the way the liberals look at things. I mean, have they forgotten about Obamacare? I mean, we're just getting rid of it today. I mean, for crying out loud. I cannot believe the media. I cannot believe the liberal lefts. They're putting a scare tactic in something that we should have been scared of a long time ago, which is Obamacare. We're very fortunate. My buddy Gary Miguel is back with me. I want to talk to you about that health bill.
It's a big victory to get to this point.
Absolutely, it is.
And but it's only part of the way because now it's
got to hit the Senate.
It has to go through the Senate, right? And then it's going to go back to be written, the bill itself. And the thing that scares me about it, and it's going to be a big job for Trump to overcome, is the fact that there has been literally billions of dollars spent to have and keep Obamacare.
Oh yeah, the special interests. There's money there.
Well, there's a lot of money. It's in the billions,
sure
not millions. Okay, so these are people that have paid. We're talking about who are they? Well, they're the pharmaceutical companies. They're the insurance companies.
The two major companies.
And this is the uniparty that we talk about.
Yes.
These are the people that actually control the country. Yeah. Well, if you got the people that's been controlling this country for the last probably at least 20, 30, 40 years, to the degree they're controlling it, and they're controlling it with dollars, it's going to be a tough fight to get that new health care away from the Obamacare.
Yeah.
In other words, are we going to just end up with another Obamacare?
What about all the, and there's all the horror stories about Obamacare, which is why I wanted to play that clip. I mean, my goodness, I think it's Ohio or Illinois, one state that has one provider. Yeah. All the providers are leaving. They're all leaving. They don't get paid. It's not worth their while to do what they do. That's the bottom line.
Well, what Trump's going to be fighting on this is going to be the uniparty, which uniparty means both Democrat and Republican. And you got to remember that this Congress does not write laws anymore. Yeah. It's all written already by the people who hire the lobbyists. And that's who's going to end up writing that bill, and then Trump's going to have to, and his people, figure out somehow to not get ourselves trapped into what they ultimately want, which is a one-payer.
In regards to that, let me ask you a question. I know what your answer is going to be. Isn't it just amazing to you that he's gotten where he's gotten, Donald Trump?
Well, it is. There's no president ever got that far.
And look, and he's
in that length of time.
He's got he's got the health bill about to go to the Senate. And I think it'll pass. I do. I really do.
Yeah,
think it'll
I
pass.
do. Yeah,
and it's going to be much, much better than Obamacare ever was. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is screaming and yelling to the media about,
Well, it's scare tactics.
Well, yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah,
you know?
and you got to remember
existing conditions. Well, that's a thing that Obama tried to sell everybody.
Well, here's the thing. Yeah, that's true, Ray. And here's the thing. All you have to do as a citizen that watches either whatever, I don't care what. Mm-hmm. Just ask yourself, who is for me? There's no such thing as a congressman or senator that's for you anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. All they are is hired hands by the uniparty people, who are the big money people, banks, Wall Street, insurance, you name it.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you. There's only one person that has anything to do with you, and that's Donald Trump. Now, you could take
absolutely.
You could take all the 17 that he ran against.
Mm-hmm.
You could take all the Democrat, Hillary and her. And,
it all comes down to the fact that they're all subjected to special interests.
They all are, and they're owned 100% by those people. And man, it's their job to get reelected.
He's doing every single thing that he said he would do.
He did,
everything.
Right.
I mean, this is the health bill. This is a major thing. You know, it's a major thing. The replacement of Obamacare.
Well,
major.
Anybody that you talk to on the street and you ask them, okay, who is the one person in Washington, D.C. that's for you with any power to do something? We have the Congress and we have the Senate. I guarantee you there's not one of them that's for you.
Well, I agree with you.
They may go back there with a good intention. I got elected and I'm going to change things. No, you're not, because they're paying you. And it's not a little sum. To give you an example, in 1986, as we mentioned last show, that was running about $113,000 per congressman that was spent by lobbyists. Okay.
That money goes directly into the HIP National Bank, doesn't it?
Well, that's $113,000 per congressman and senator. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it's $5.8 million.
I remember you said that. What an increase.
Well, figure it out. I mean, per congressman, in the way of all kinds of things, you know, and so it's almost impossible that either you and I, let's say that we depended upon money to get ourselves elected, and we went back there with all good intention. It's almost impossible for us not to become the slaves of who got us there.
Good way to put it. Very well put.
And so then you have to ask, well, Trump's in there. It's America first.
And he has not been bought.
And it's everything's always America first. What he's done in the world, in fact, he's the number one power in the world now. He did that in less than 3 months.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
He started doing that when he got elected.
Exactly. He stepped in.
Well, you know, what you can't do, of course, is buy him. But let's think about that. Let's forget about that part of who is he doing this for?
He's doing it for the country.
Absolutely. Because he doesn't.
Trump, we've said that a million times.
Exactly.
Donald Trump does not have to do this.
Well, then the other side of it, you got to ask yourself, well, then why am I so patriotic and why am I so all-American and love America and the people and all this? My God, does Trump think any different than you?
Not really.
Of course not. He's done it because he does love the country.
Yeah.
He does love the people. He did give up a life of a billionaire.
Sure he did.
I mean, here he is being hounded by everything and anything and everyone. And plus,
that's another thing. That is another thing, like this, getting to this health bill. He has overcome so very much, and he continues. Donald, you know, I thought about it last night. Here it is, all in a simple phrase. Donald Trump is a winner. That's what he does. He wins.
Right.
You know, that's it.
So then you as an American who has somebody that's doing something for you, who would you pick?
Absolutely.
I mean, you're going to pick a winner. You don't want to pick a loser.
Absolutely.
And if the person is doing it for you, if you could hire that person, then he's going to be doing it for you. Who better than the person that is thinking of you first?
Absolutely.
And that's what we're doing as voters. Mm-hmm. We're hiring someone that is thinking of us first.
One by one, they're going to see him keep doing these things that is good for America.
Right. And the last thing he's not doing it for, he's not doing it for his health, because, by God, the guy sleeps 4 hours a day or something.
I know, he's amazing.
And he's not doing it for the money, because he's got all the money he could ever want, need, or anyway.
And he's not doing it for the power, because he's already
he's already powerful anyway.
You know, and everybody
no, he cares less about that. In fact, what he's trying to do is an example with China. He's trying to make China the one that solves the North Korea problem.
That's what that was the whole point of when he invited him over here.
Yeah,
that was amazing.
He has no interest.
And look what's happened. Look what's happened. They've sent 150,000 troops to guard the border. They turned the coal embargo around, shipped it back, and bought coal from us.
And what he's really got, which I thought is pretty cool, he's got the North Korean criticizing China for betrayal.
Oh, yes, it came out in their newspaper.
And he is even come out and say, like I said, way back when, they turned those nukes around and now they're headed for Beijing. So what does that do for the Chinese? Well, that makes them all the more, and Trump just sits back and lets that happen. You follow me?
Let me tell you something. When it comes down to it, he definitely does not want to mess with China.
He doesn't want to mess with China, and the U.S. and China and Japan, they've all got him zeroed now, and
yeah, you're right. They've got him zeroed,
and they got him zeroed. And of course, things we don't know, but we know where every one of those missile sites are, sure, and the whole thing. And so Trump's just sitting there and letting China, or encouraging China to be involved as much as
they are involved,
and they're getting more involved. In the right way.
Yeah, and now Korea makes a threat to them, Oh, right. My gosh.
And he did the same thing with...
just an idiot.
Well, he's doing the same thing with Putin there in Russia. They had this talk last week. Well, that Russian's starting to figure it out. Here it is, this alliance. And he's sitting there. What's he doing backing some losers? I don't want to say losers, but back in a country like Iran, and back in a country like Syria, and back in a country like Turkey.
There's the mud pot right there.
That's a mud
Iran.
pot. Yes.
Iran.
So,
there it is right there.
Putin doesn't want to get involved with that outfit. It's like you're choosing your team.
Oh, yeah. Because everybody knows that Iran is supporting,
Ray, Trump gave a speech last night on the Coral Sea.
Yeah.
The museum.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't thought about this in a long, long time. And it was the Coral Sea. Mm-hmm. Well, back when I was a pilot here at Fresno, we had an exchange program with the Navy. Uh-huh. And we got to stay out there for 4 or 5 days, and we landed on the carrier, take off, this and that. Well, anyway, there was about 4 or 5 of us. I guess about 5 of us that went out on that. And anyway, I was one of them, and on the Coral Sea. And what they were doing is going to have carrier night qualifications. So I don't care how many years you've been a pilot, and you do have to qualify so many landings every year on a carrier.
That's got to be at night?
At night,
Ooh, that's got to be tough.
It is tough. And so, and they got the different types of airplanes. Here's F-4s now, and now we're going to do A-4s, now we're going to do A-7, now we're going to do F-8s, now we're going to do D.
You got a very short time to stop, don't you?
Well, here's the point I'm getting at is you run.
Yeah.
And this goes on all night, okay? And these guys are coming out from San Diego, because we're right off the coast of San Diego, about 20, 30 miles, going up and down on a racetrack pattern. Mm-hmm. And these guys come out there, and they either qualify or not qualify. And the reason why these have to be kept separate is because the catapult has to be set up for every aircraft has its own parameters that you need to, or inputs that you need to put into the catapult.
Oh, I see.
In other words, an F-8 requires a certain a certain input or parameters than an A-7 or something. So anyhow, I was walking down there and come across the captain. I forget how I met him exactly, but turned to find out he looked at my name and he says Miguel. I said, yeah. He says, you don't by chance know a guy named Ed Miguel? I said, well, that's my dad. Well, come to find out, this captain was at the Kiwanis Club, and my dad was at the Kiwanis Club there in Lemoore.
Oh, my goodness.
And they were real good friends. They became real good friends, Of course, I didn't know, know that. And this guy's name was McDonald, and he says, and he was a great guy, right? So he said, would you like to come up to the bridge, where you steer the boat and watch all this? I said, man, I love that. Of course, he was up there. And this was going on all night, right? So he says, how would you like to say someday that you drove an aircraft carrier? I says, you're kidding. He says, there's this great big wheel there,
Gosh.
So I get over there, and he says, just keep it, you want that wind you want it to be right into the wind so these pilots don't have a crosswind, you know.
Yeah.
He said, just keep it like that. He said, the thing you got to watch for is these people that private boats and stuff that might be out, fishing boats or something. He says they don't realize we can't turn, we can't do it.
We're just going to go straight on.
Yeah, we got to just keep going. And boy, he says that's the biggest dangerous thing right now on the whole thing. So anyway, it's a racetrack pattern. So you go down, I forget how many miles, let's say 40 miles or 50 miles, and then you turn. Well, turn one of those aircraft carriers, my God, it's like turning from Lemoore to Vine City before you get turned around, you know. So I did that for about 2 hours, and got to turn it, you know. Well, I mean, I didn't think that much about it, you know, but you are driving this 5,000 people on this aircraft carrier.
Oh, my goodness.
And I said, well, what's the biggest thing you ever drove? Well, I guess I'd tell you an aircraft carrier, you know. And so anyway
was it pretty on the Coral Sea? It seems like it's
you mean as far as the boat itself?
The area, the whole area.
Well, of course, we were out there.
During the daytime, I'm talking about.
I wasn't there. Well, we're there 4 days. But then we're up all night. So I didn't see much of that. It's a city, and when you think about it, there was 5,000 people on there, and you've got everything just like a city. You got the post office, you got the hospital.
Well, I hear that it's really
everything that a city has. You got the fire department, you got the garbage, you got the whole everything just like a city. You got doctors, you got preachers, you got everything on there, church, services.
Yeah.
Everything's just like a city with 5,000 people.
Oh, my goodness.
The average age is 19 years old.
Is that right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
You would think. And so the question I asked him, I said, how in the world do you get this thing to operate like this? He said one word, training. The military can train. And he says, these kids, they all are trained to do their job, and by their training, I could take a kid off the street, put him through training, and he'll do that job, and this boat will keep running. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was.
So anyway, I thought I got a kick out of that because it was a big deal yesterday, that Coral Sea thing, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, then it dawned on me, I said, you know what, I drove that boat one day.
Well, I'm loving the progress that he's making. I really am. I think he's doing an outstanding job. President of the United States. I'm proud of everything that he's doing, and he's doing what he says he'll do. I know the health bill has some problems with it.
Well,
they will revise and fix those.
He's going to have to fight for everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's not going to get any help.
And you can see him going in easy and kind of sideways at first because he has to. He has to make some progress toward getting something passed because what we have now is nothing.
Well, he has to do that because he's going to have a tough time with because he's not just fighting the Democrats. He's fighting the Republicans, who are members of the Uniparty, which means they're overlaying one of them in one way or another. Okay, so he will get. There are some that'll try to go this way, but man, they're sending him stuff that he's got to.
Oh, I know.
He's got to give a little bit. He knows that, Ralph.
And that's what he has to do. I mean, that's why I know the hardcore Republicans are going to criticize the fact that he had to give a little bit, but he has to get something done. Well, in that way, because what we have is nothing.
Exactly,
absolutely nothing.
Well, what happens is it comes out of comment. Well, Trump didn't get. They beat Trump on this, or they beat Trump on that. But you got to remember, in negotiation, you're in business, and you know that. You ask for this.
Yes.
Knowing full well that you're at an extreme.
Yeah.
Knowing full well that you don't expect to get what you exactly want.
But you come down some.
But you know where you want to be.
Yeah. And that brings you to that point or above.
And that's where you go every single time. And he does that every time.
He's brilliant at it.
Yeah.
He's just brilliant
if anybody that's good at that, it's him. He does that with a foreign country like China, and he does that with any foreign leader, you know. So he knows that point of. But then now the press, that they have no common sense. They don't understand that.
That's what's fueling everything. Everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Somebody made the comment the other day that Donald Trump would say, you know what, we're going to cut everything up. Everybody's going to get $100. Every man, woman, child is going to get $100 in the United States. He said they jump all over that. It wouldn't matter what. It's whatever he does. They want to try to find a way to block him.
Well, people are getting wise to it, and more
and more. They are.
Well, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a perfect example. Okay, 29% of the Hispanics voted for Trump. Now it'd be 48 to 49%.
Oh, would it? Yeah.
55% increase gain with just the Hispanics alone.
Yeah.
Okay, now with the blacks, I forget what that one was, but it's
It
a
was
gain.
somewhere around 6%, I think, wasn't it?
But right now, if they were to be elected today, 10% more blacks would vote for Trump than did before.
Yeah, so that's
55
16%, which is good.
55% more than voted for. 55% would be voting of Hispanics. 49% would be voting for Trump, which is a 55% increase. So you got to ask yourself, well, man, with all that media and all that rioting, all those protesters and all that stuff, that's all you see. What are these people doing? How come they're saying, wait a minute, I'm tired of that.
Because they're seeing what's going on.
Everything they're doing is just the opposite of what they think they are doing.
Yeah.
Actually, the more they do that, it's to the point to where it gets down.
I hope people are starting to see it because it's poisoned so many minds already.
Well, we think
people,
it does, Ray.
Yeah.
But people are people, I mean, everybody's not a dummy, unless, of course, if you're one of those Democrats in Congress.
No.
Or something.
Yeah.
Like that one, like that
Pelosi.
video.
Yeah, well.
But when you think about people are starting to sit there and it's having the opposite effect of what they're trying to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, how do you like to be a Democrat? And you're you think you're a decent person. You're raising a family, and you're living just so happened you to be a Democrat, right? Mm-hmm. And how are you going to feel proud about telling somebody that when you got all these people that are being identified with the Democratic Party, that are protesting, that are rioting, and they're making fools of themselves? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you get tired after a while making excuses for that?
Yeah.
And you'll notice another thing that's interesting. The liberal mind, if you think about it, prior to when Obama was in there, and you have friends that were Democrats,
still do, yeah.
Of course. But here's the thing: did you go through that time of always picking on them, or saying I'm not going to talk to you anymore, or I don't respect you anymore? No, you just went through it, right?
Yeah.
But those people will do it to you. And it's interesting, the comments that come in, people say that I had lifelong friends that are liberal, and I voted for Trump, and those people don't even talk to me anymore. And that's happened to a lot of people.
Sure it has.
And now you don't see Republicans doing that, but you see Democrats, liberals doing that.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Think of that mindset. I mean, they're hateful people.
Well, that's what's brought all this now. And of course we have to hold in mind that a lot of that is still paid. Those people are paid, a ton of them.
Well, yeah, and but I thought about that too. And we're talking about we have a horrible problem in the inner cities, in too many cities, and too many in that city that are living in absolute worse conditions than
they're the worst conditions in the country.
Can you imagine worrying every day about getting up and having somebody's going to shoot you, and if you're a mother that has children, worrying about that their child's going to get shot every single day.
There was a documentary about a father that walked his children to school every single day. He had 4 of them, and he had to go to 4 children, and I think 2 of them went to the same school. So he had to go to 3 different schools, and it was frightening. Mm-hmm. I felt for this man that did it every single day.
Well, I think that one of the solutions for the problem we have with these cities, with like Chicago and Watson, LA, you name it, okay? Yeah. Now, the problem is fear.
Well, of course it is.
And I think what Trump needs to do, which he is doing now, is go in there and clean these gangs out of there.
That's exactly what has to happen. Exactly what has to happen. Okay, now, that's what he's...
Think about yourself let's say you're on welfare. And you're living there because that's where you get your money, right? Well, why are you living here? Why don't you move out? Where am I going to go? And this is where I get my money, and this is where I'm staying. I can't go somewhere else. And so you're living in fear, right? Mm-hmm. Now, you're not living in poverty, especially when you measure it by the world standards.
Yeah.
You're being fed, you're being clothed, and you got housing.
Yeah. So you're not living... That's true. You're not homeless.
You're not homeless. In fact, you're living... better than standards of the world, better than 90% or 80% of the world's population.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though you're on welfare and getting this government program. But now think about the thing that really overtakes every bit of what we just said is you're scared and you're living in fear. Now, why should you go through your entire life even though you're provided with clothing, even though you're provided with food, even though you're provided with housing. But why should you go through your entire life living it in fear?
Well, you shouldn't.
Of course not. And so that's the point that Trump has to get to, I think. He has to remove the fear.
And to remove the fear, you need to get the gangs out of there.
And exactly. To remove the fear.
I don't know what the solutions, but that's it. You got to get rid of them.
You got to get rid of the fact
They're
that these
terrible
people,
cancer.
Yeah, and these people do not deserve living their life in a constant fear.
Yeah.
Including if you're a young kid born there, third, fourth generation now, and all of a sudden you just accept fear as part of living there.
Well, I'm sure that there's a certain amount of it they have to accept.
Well, that's because that's what it is, and they're running scared. I mean, I think the single biggest thing.
You just made a very good point, my friend. A very good point. That's very true.
It's not giving them more money. It's not giving them more clothes. It's not giving them free phones. It's none of that. That's not what it is. It's removing the fear.
Removing the fear. Very well said, Gary. Yeah. Very true.
And that's the thing. But I think Trump that's his. I think he knows it, just like you and I do.
Yeah.
That if you remove that fear out of that area.
Well, he said he had to clean up,
Yeah.
the inner cities, and that's part of it.
He don't have to give any more money, any more free phones, any more this or that. He's got to get rid of the fear.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting a free phone, getting money and this and that, but I do it without fear. Yeah. I don't live constantly day in, day out, and fear.
Well, as far as I know, they control the neighborhoods.
Of course they do. And they
have to be stopped. It's just ridiculous.
And so that's why I think that Trump is heading that direction, because they're making it somewhat quietly, because you don't get it on the press.
They'll just do it. That's what I love about it. Like, we don't know what's going on in Korea, and I don't want to know. I just want to,
Right. I want that fear removed.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
So I think the key to the thing now, and that's, I think, what they're doing first, is try and eliminate the fear in these areas that we know as ghettos.
Yeah.
That is just nothing but destroying a whole generation of people.
You're absolutely right.
Even though they're fed,
out.
and they get free care.
It doesn't matter. It's still it's the fear.
It's the fear.
Yeah, we're going to take a little break here and pay a few bills. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in say 2 and 2.
God bless the USA.
Okay, I'm back. I want to encourage you to do something. I want you to encourage you to do your own due diligence in regards to this health bill, and you can find all that online. I'm sure you all know how to do that. And before you rest on what you hear from the media, okay, because believe me, the liberal is hitting everything. I've heard things about people are going to be dying in the streets. I mean, just ridiculous stuff. Do your due diligence. People have talked to me about pre-existing conditions. I think if you read this bill, you'll understand this bill, and you'll know what the bill says, and you won't be getting false information. I encourage you so much to do that. Gary?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Ray, and because there is going to be a tremendous battle when you're talking about, we're not talking about millions of dollars, we're talking about billions at stake for the wrong people.
Yeah,
and which means it's not good for us.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just could almost say that whatever you hear from that source, you can just about negate it right off the get-go.
Exactly. I want people to know that.
Well, the thing that, one of the things that Trump has been criticized by his own Republicans, because we're all impatient people, and we're talking about draining the swamp, and people are asking, well, when is this going to start where they get Hillary Clinton? My God, she's broken laws that would put us in the electric chair, But how come she gets off free? How come Obama gets off free? How come Loretta Lynch gets off free? How come Huma gets off? How come Hillary? And all that, right? Well, what Trump knows is that if he was driving that, he would receive so much criticism.
Absolutely.
From
Just
the
let
press.
It take, yes.
And it would be unbelievable.
Yeah, as if he's not receiving enough already.
As if he's not receiving enough already. So you can imagine if he then became a leader in indicting Hillary as an example or something. He doesn't mention any of that. He's letting this is where his genius is. Now, it's impatient. I'm impatient. I'd like to see her. I can't wait for her hanging from a noose from an oak tree, And so anyway, he sits back and lets them do it to themselves.
Exactly.
Now, let's think about how clever this is. Just recently, the unmasking of names, it's come out that there's been something like 35,000 names that have been that were unmasked.
I heard.
And that's a violation of the Fourth Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, let's think about that a little bit. Who is coming up with a complaint now? It's everybody who thinks they might have had their name.
Oh, heck yeah. They want to get, yes.
So you got Democrat congressmen, Democrat senators, Republican congressmen, Republican senators wanting to know if my name happened to be one of those that was unmasked.
Pretty interesting, huh?
And that's who's coming up. And Trump just, he doesn't get involved. He lets them do it. And I'll tell you, if you can imagine, if you was a congressman or something, and all of a sudden you find out that your name you were under surveillance without you knowing it, and it was illegal, and it's your name on the line, you'd want to know why was my name on there.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and that's what's happening. So they're doing it to themselves. Like now, the one thing that they counted on, and why they think they will not be indicted. Let's say you use Hillary Clinton or Obama or something. You notice that Comey the other day on his speech, he went over and over how, I can't talk about that.
Oh, yes.
I can't talk about it. Well, how in the world, if you can't talk about it, how in the world are we going to get any evidence? So what they know is the evidence needed to put them in jail is classified. And it's illegal to have a classified information to be divulged or be exposed. So they're hiding under the fact, I got all the evidence in the world, but man, I killed 10 people and I robbed 6, but it's all classified.
Here's something I don't understand. Why is Comey still there?
I'll tell you why he's there. He's serving this purpose perfectly. He's part of that reason that Trump is sitting there. He knows how he keeps Comey. He keeps literally spinning and spinning in the wind out there, and the more he does what he does, he gets the comment, like you said, well, why is he there? Because more and more people are beginning to see Comey as he really is, instead of Trump saying, Comey's this, Comey's that. No, he lets Comey say it to himself.
Exactly.
So every time,
now that does make sense.
Well, doesn't every time you see Comey, you think, well, why is he there?
Oh, yeah.
That's what Trump wants you to see. Not see it from his mouth, but see it from Comey's mouth.
Comey intimidates himself.
Exactly.
That's beautiful.
So Trump don't have to sit there and say, well, Comey's unqualified.
Because that's what he does. That's what he can teach.
And all of a sudden, you watch it enough, and you begin to say, well, everybody's saying that.
I listened to him the other night, and the things he said, a lot of which was contradictory to what he said during the campaign. A lot of it, that I remember, if you went back and looked at it verbatim, you'd probably find even more. So I'm thinking, why is this man even there?
Yeah, but if you ask the question then, why is he there? It is for that reason he's there. Now, isn't it better hearing it from Comey's mouth than to hear it from Trump trying to tell you that that's what he was doing?
Yeah, of course it is. And then you see him. Everybody had to see what I saw.
Well, of course, everybody sees that. It's an interesting thing that kind of helps a lot in. You see what's happening in Venezuela. It's getting worse. It's out of control.
Once a prosperous country, now
people are
now a third world country.
It's beyond. It's as bad as Russia was when they had takeover, communism, socialism. Okay, that's exactly what we were headed with Hillary Clinton. Exactly.
I remember you said that on many occasions on this very show.
And now listen to this in terms of that. You've got Venezuela demonstrating what happens when you're under a social communist type environment, right? And now you can't sit there and say that wouldn't happen in the United States, because there was Venezuelans at one time who sat there and says that'll never happen to us.
Of course. And they were prosperous.
And they were
a prosperous country.
But it happened to them. And it could happen in the United States, and we were headed hell-bent for that exact point because of all the things that we've pointed out, which it was part of the program, indoctrination of schools and so forth.
Yeah.
Now think about education for a minute. If a socialist understood economics they would never be a socialist. Think about that. So it tells you that that's not being what's taught in the schools. Now, doesn't it stand to reason that if you go to school that you should have a pure understanding of what economics
Of course.
involves?
Absolutely.
That should be the number one required thing.
All the old ancient esoteric schools taught that.
There you go.
One of the most
Right.
important things that they taught.
Okay.
Always.
Now think about that. If you did understand what economics really is, there's no way you'd want to be a socialist.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
So liberals that are socialists, which all of them are in some way or form, if they understood economics, then they would not be for a socialist type government. Okay, now let's go to our schools. I think it was something like 90-some% voted Democrat. They're infiltrated. I mean, all the school teachers and everywhere. Students that are, if you're in a class, even in, like you seen the other day with those two boys who were here, right?
Yes.
If you're in a class and you don't go along with the
What the norm, what they would refer to probably
well,
as the
I'm
norm.
going
I know
to,
what
yeah,
you're
you know, the socialist communist
Yeah.
type, of, I call it that, or the liberal type. You
Yeah.
know. If you don't go along with that, you may not get the grade you need to go somewhere else later on.
I remember when they said that, I thought, "Are you?"
Yeah.
I had no idea that it had gotten that bad.
It
I
is
heard-
that bad, well,
Yeah.
especially when you got 90-some% of there. So what are these people? You go to school teachers, like my brother-in-law. He's a school teacher, but he's a conservative. He says I can't even. I mean, I can't bring up one thing in the school, like in the teachers' room and all that, because they're all liberals.
Jeez.
So they're teaching these kids, and they're not teaching them what they need to be learning, which is the economics of what that really means.
Exactly.
Because if they did, and they understood it, and get an A on their test, I guarantee you they would not be a socialist.
I guarantee you're right.
I have a
Absolutely.
niece. She's a sophomore now, and when she was in 8th grade, she studied socialism, and she bought several books on it and studied it. And she said, you know, that's one thing I did learn by reading those books. I know I don't want to be a socialist. That was pretty cool.
Yes.
But she wasn't. Those books weren't suggested by the teacher. She somehow just went on her
Yeah.
own and figured it out. And I'm sure there's a number of kids doing that. But think about that. It's sad, in a sense, that that's not one of the greater things you could learn is going to school and be educated is to learn about what economics
Well,
is, because that's your own personal economics.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. It's going to affect the rest of your life, and it's going to affect a major part of your life.
So these kids are coming out of there brainwashed, and the taxpayers are paying for it, and they're being taught by socialists.
Especially when you get on the college level,
Yeah.
the liberal professors are just unbelievable. I mean,
Right.
Berkeley's not the only one. It's
Oh,
all
of
across
course
the
not.
country,
Oh, my God, you see
know.
stories almost weekly, you know, of
Yeah.
some teacher that's a professor comes out with some wacko thing that, my God, it makes you cringe, you know. And that has nothing to do with whether you want to call yourself a Democrat or Republican. It just has to do with common sense.
And they've all been brainwashed all these years, and they have a certain way of looking at Republicans and looking at conservatism in a certain way. I mean, I don't know how to break that banner.
Well, the thing is that that you got to get down to the basic difference, and it gets pretty simple. It actually gets down to two words each side. Okay, liberals are going to be excuse and blame.
That's what they do.
Conservatives are going to be responsible and accountable
Exactly.
for whatever it is you're doing. I don't care I don't care if you're selling lemonade on a lemonade stand. You're accountable and responsible.
Exactly.
A liberal would sit there and be sitting on that stand and says, "Oh my gosh, it's too hot. Oh, there's these people come walking by and they don't want to buy lemonade." They just go on
Oh,
and
yeah.
on. You
Oh,
know
yeah.
why they maybe didn't sell very much lemonade that day. Conservatives are going to just.
We're breeding them, and we're breeding them. It's like the little co-eds in the schools that needed the puppies and the hot chocolate and the cookies late at night. You know. That always just, when I hear that, it always makes me laugh, and it makes me mad at the same time because you want to give them a good swat on the butt and tell them, go out and get a job like everybody else and wake up, this is America, there's no free lunch, you know.
Yeah, and unfortunately, or there's just way too much of that, but you know, we're talking about the snowflakes living in their mother's basement, and that's basically they end up. It's sad because it almost gets down to the trap. They get trapped into that.
Sure they do. And
they come out of college and all that, and they're quite frankly worthless compared to the person that learns how to do something. You know, he learned a skill. He maybe went to the military or something.
I got to tell you, on the way over here on Power Talk, I don't know who it was, but it was some professor, an ex-professor, who was saying basically the same thing you said a few months ago about college, how worthless college was and how worthless you thought going to college was. And he was making a heck of a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
Well, the thing is, it just look at the dimes and cents. Why are kids living in their mother's basement when they get out of college?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, it's like this professor said, it was a woman too. It was like she said, you know, she said, that those 4 years that you're going to go wasting away doing something, she said, you can already be doing it.
Exactly.
You know? She says, find yourself a skill, develop that skill, go out into the workforce, and then you can go from there. I mean, it aside from the fact that you may want to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. Yeah, that's
right.
You know, and there are other exceptions.
Yeah, scientists.
But basically, just going to get a 4-year degree so that you can use that degree to further yourself financially right now is what she was saying.
That's right, because what you're doing is the taxpayers are funding one of the biggest industries there is, which is the educational industry.
Yes.
Okay, and they're funding it with tax dollars. Well, obviously they want to make it bigger and more, right? So here's how they even go so far as to including that is that a lot of jobs that are today that require a college education, they didn't require a college education before.
They do now.
They do now. So they say, well, why are you going to college? Well, so I can get a job. What kind of a job? A job that requires a college education.
He's like, wait a minute. He's like that old boy in that joke in that caption. It says higher education, right? And he got this little squatty guy there, and he's pushing on the door, and it says pull, you know, but he's going to get it there one way or another. Right? Higher education, he's getting in, right?
And so what you got is you've got a lot of stuff working against one another. You know, when you're sitting there, and industry, you know, there again, industry's in cohesion with this, and they sit there and say, well, that job that some high school kid could have got not that many years ago, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, he could have got that job in a heartbeat and been very good at it, obviously. Now you can't get that. Say, I've asked people that. I've asked people that went out of high school into a certain job. I said, that job you got, does that job require a college education? Well, I went in that job out of high school, but now they do.
Yeah.
To get my job, that you have to have a college. Now, isn't that part of the scam?
Of course it is, Garrett.
Get industry to require college education.
Yeah.
Guess what? Kids are forced to go there to get a job sweeping a road or something. You know, he's a college educated.
Yeah.
That was just to feed that industry.
Yeah.
And I think that probably, I don't know, we could all guess, but I would say there's probably really only required maybe about 25-30% a college education. Other than maybe you want to go there during that time because it is a good time for you to spend your time as a youth.
Yeah.
But it's not a good time to go over there and spend your time being indoctrinated.
Yeah, and that's what's happening.
And that's what
has been happening.
Yeah.
That's the sad part about it.
That is, you know, and you got parents that are sending their kids there that work hard and help with money, obviously.
They've bought the farm. It's always work. Let's keep doing it. Let's never change. Gosh, makes us stagnant.
It's just the whole attitude has to change. You
exactly.
know? And I think that more and more people, as they, like you mentioned, go out and do your own research and do your own investigation, which some people, and there's a lot of people that do.
Sure they do.
You know, and so, well, as evidenced by the fact that we just seen where there's more people, two races right there, Hispanic and black, would now today there'd be more blacks vote for Trump today than did in November, and there'd be more Hispanics vote for Trump today than did in November, and of course there'd be a lot of people.
What people are starting. It's like you said, people are continuing, but they're starting to wake up. They're seeing a difference in the country. There's a difference in this country right now.
If you listen to Pelosi or the media and that, there's almost a desperation in their voices.
Yes, yeah,
you could feel that. That almost they're scared.
They don't have anything to do. Think about this. The liberals don't have anything to do but what they do. I mean, think about that. That's all they have to do. They can't do anything other than this. It's true. Like a last-ditch effort to try to derail everything.
Exactly, because derailment means that they may have to be forced to the side that is responsible and accountable.
Exactly.
And that is as foreign to a liberal as a man in the moon. When they've been bred and led and all that,
all these years,
to be excuse and blamers, it's pretty difficult to switch over. All of a sudden, I got to be accountable and responsible, especially when I know damn good and well I don't have the mental capacity to do it. Not because I'm dumb, because I'm not educated.
Isn't it sad to think of those young gals that was drinking that hot chocolate coming up and want to, and they're going to become adults?
And isn't it sad that you get somebody that comes out of a 4-year college, can't get a job, quote, educated, and my answer to that, no, you weren't. You didn't waste your 4 years in college as far as being indoctrinated.
Yeah.
Because that's what you are. You got that done. Now, as far as the education part, I feel pretty sad for you. Because you did not get educated. Yeah. Because if you did, you dang well would not be voting Democrat today.
They don't get it. They just don't get it. I met a guy. I had to make a business trip up to Hayward the other day, and so there were several of us along, and we stopped to have lunch in this place. And I met this guy, and oh my gosh, he was one of the liberals that, after a while, it's like a drone, you just say, you know what, I can see now that you believe what you believe because it's been indoctrinated in you for so long that it's a reality to you,
Yeah, that becomes a reality.
Yeah, and that's the sad part.
Yeah,
and they totally believe it, and they're the most difficult people to convince.
Well, and so they have to be hit over the head.
Exactly.
And Trump did it the other day when he didn't go to the elites.
Wasn't that great? Yeah, and all the jokes.
They all got their noses in the air, and Trump's down there with the people, has the biggest rally he's ever had.
Exactly. Beautiful. That was a beautiful move.
Oh my God! I mean, at the same night, same time.
They were just waiting for him to come there so they could jump all over him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they wanted to do it. He didn't go. I thought that was a great move on his part.
Well, in a number of ways, because what the message was to the people, I'd rather be here with the people.
The real people.
Yeah.
The real people.
Not the ones that got their nose stuck in the air and think that they're above everyone, and beyond everyone. Yeah. And this is the message that people are starting to get with Trump.
They were so upset about that, weren't they? I mean, they just couldn't stand it. I mean, it was just one of them after another. And they came up with these jokes and called him all kinds of things, which, what gets me is regardless of what position you put Donald J. Trump at, he comes out standing on his feet, and he never gives up. He never quits. He's persistent. Right. He will not stop. He will be victorious, whatever he decides to do. I'm convinced of that.
Well, he understands the mind of the everyday guy and gal, and like no other, that's in any kind of power. Mm-hmm. He understands the mind of every person that goes to that rally. They feel like that they're being talked to by someone who's not telling them but feels it.
Mm-hmm. That understands them.
Yeah. And so when the people go to those rallies and you look at the crowd and you look at the comments later and so forth, it's a feeling that people have being among people who are as patriotic as they are. We think maybe I'm more patriotic than that. No, we're all patriotic. Listening to a guy who is just as patriotic as we are, we have a feeling, and you can't hardly go anymore and listen to an entire Trump rally without getting a lump in your throat or a tear in your eye.
Exactly. My first one, when I met you.
And you can't help but that. Okay, because that's a feeling. Now listen, that's also a feeling that has no vocabulary.
No.
You can't come out and express it.
No,
Just something
it has no. It's something
and
absolutely, Gary.
And you have a love for everybody that's there with you, even though you've never seen them before in your
Exactly.
life. You just have an instant
Absolutely.
love for them.
Yeah.
Okay, then Trump is able to get across that same feeling when he's delivering his speech. He's coming across the same thing that, man, I'm with you.
Exactly.
I understand.
That's
you.
what got him elected. People
Yeah.
picked up on that immediately.
Right.
That's what
Right.
one of the things that
Right.
got him elected.
And doesn't it feel great to feel great?
No, it does indeed.
I mean, I feel sorry for the people that are miserable,
Yeah.
and they're out there miserable because they just don't understand the feeling. They don't understand what this thing's all about. All they understand is one thing, which is the excuse and blame part of being a liberal and a victim. Being a victim. I mean, doesn't it feel better to feel like you're part of something that has hope, has incentive,
Exactly.
and has
Certainly it
spirit? Doesn't that feel better
It sure does.
than to be sitting there in a gutter somewhere, mentally in a gutter? You may be living in a mansion, but
But it's still mentally there. Yeah.
you're mentally in a gutter. I just
That's what he
yeah.
does. That's exactly what he does. He makes you feel like you're a part of of everything, And I know when I went to that first rally, I can't wait to go to another one. That's how I felt, and that's how everybody around me felt.
Well, Ray, don't you feel like if you just happened to be in a room, just you and Donald Trump, that you wouldn't immediately have rapport?
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have
Absolutely,
in
I
a
feel
heartbeat.
that way
Yeah.
with Donald Trump.
So
I
it
feel
becomes
like I would.
personal. It becomes that where I happen to see him enough and look at it enough. I consider him my friend
Yeah.
because I have that kind of a feeling, and he has that kind of feeling for me.
Well, he
And that's
makes
the
people
thing.
feel that way.
Yeah, he makes you feel that way, and he genuinely means it, and that's
Yeah.
why it's effective. I mean,
It is
he
effective.
generally loves those people. When you watch him when they'll bring their kids or something. Boy, he just loves that.
Yeah. Yeah, he does.
And he understands it. And so I think that getting back to the progress that's gone on, I do have some concern with the health care deal because I hope he doesn't get forced into having to give up to where we're back to a goal, number one, by billionaires.
Yes.
A goal of a one-payer system, which is a government control. All health care is all about is whether you control the people or they control
or
themselves.
they do. Yeah, it can't be. That will not work. We know that
Yeah.
already. You
Right.
know, so it's got to be. And I think he knows that, and I think that's one of the things that if he has to compromise, I'm certain that won't be one of the things. I would not think that.
I wouldn't either. And I think that the press is trying to make it like that.
Of course they are. That's it. That's it.
Exactly.
Can you believe
Yeah.
that people like Nancy Pelosi are talking about if this thing goes through, we're going to have people dying in the streets. We're going to have this. We're not going to. I said, I wanted to just look at her in the face and say, what's happened the last few years with Obamacare? Tell me how's that working out for you?
Well, here, one person answered this, I thought it was kind of cute. He says, well, he's talking about the liberal environmentalists and that, he said, they're talking about it, that the health care that Trump comes up with, we're going to have people dying in the street, dying way sooner than we should have. He says, I'd rather have that than waiting and dying because of breathing air that's full of carbon. He says,
good old cowboy sense, man.
Well, you know what that liberal would do if you sat there and said, no, he's got that health care where you're not going to die because of lack of health care. Oh, but I'll be dying because of carbon in the air.
One or the other.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like, once again, ladies and gentlemen, it's come down to the end of an hour. Thank you so much. We'll be back next Friday, same time, 3 o'clock now. And we appreciate you. And like I said, let me reiterate something I said. Please do your own due diligence about this health bill. Don't believe anything that anybody tells you. Do your own due diligence. Find out for yourself. And Gary, next week, buddy,
you bet.
we look forward to
I'm
it.
going to hopefully bring a interesting guest.
Oh,
next
I'm
week.
not even going to tell you. It's going to be a surprise. We're going to have a surprise guest next week. Hopefully,
Right.
Gary's going to bring this person. It's going to be fun. Anyway, like we said, we lost a couple other law enforcement officers back east this week. Whew, it kills me every week when I hear that. It drives me insane. Please, when you see a law enforcement officer, go up and shake his hand and let him know how much we appreciate them. Here in Fresno, it can be in another little city, it doesn't matter, but certainly you have a great opportunity here with our sheriffs, with our highway patrol, with our FBI agents. It's hard to tell the FBI agents unless they got that big yellow thing on the back. But whoever you see, a law enforcement officer, wherever you, take a few seconds, go up and do it. Gary did it, and he said it made him feel great, and I try to do it every single time I see one. Let's make them know how much we appreciate them and how much we need them. You know, they're wonderful men and women who go out and protect us every single week, and for a very little pay, by the way. And they do it because they're dedicated individuals. Now, like I say every week, every single week, until I see you next Friday at 3:00, heaven's blessings.
From Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, CentralValleyTalk.com.